this entire thing has such little to do with Jesus's teachings, Jesus Christ, the man.
Oh, you hit it on the head. So, the Catholic religion has literally nothing to do with truthfully achieving a higher sense of consciousness or Christ consciousness. It's really all about them. And even like, for example, the Pope or the priest of the Catholic Church, wherever you are in the world, that's supposed to be the conduit. That's supposed to be God walking in the flesh. Now, we know that we are all gods and God is us, but they take it to another level where they truthfully believe that they're the actual creator of the universe walking around in a mindset of domination, not collaboration. And so that's where it goes really south. And then a lot of their rules and laws and their traditions are just all about, generating revenue and money. For example, you go in and you admit that you did something wrong, and now they're going, well, you got to pay a penance to this, and you pay this penance, and that's supposed to, rid you of your sin. So from the mindset that they've established is, I can go out here, I can drink, I can hang out, I can have sex with anybody I want outside of marriage, I can violate all the rules of quote unquote Christianity, as long as I come in here and talk to this guy behind this invisible box, and then I can just pay some money, and all of my sins will be absolved, and I'm good to go and do it all over again. So I can do this once a week. So now I don't have to answer for any of my consequences. I can literally run rough and ragged. I can run, like this wild, wild west on the streets, and then I can curse people out, whatever I want, and I can just go and talk to this guy. So they've created a system where they generate revenue and money off of beguiling people into thinking that they can actually absolve themselves of their own responsibility of their own actions by paying this extra money out, just admitting something to somebody behind a box. In the archives at the Vatican, first of all, it's about 5 miles of archives underground, and very, very secure access. In other words, you can't just go, I'm going to go check out the archives underground. No, you have to be a security cleared, almost top secret cleared based on their standards to get down there. But they have in there so many incredible discoveries, so much knowledge and wisdom that have been stolen, literally stolen from all around the world. And of course, the Library of Alexandria, that was a book heist. The fire was a distraction. The real story of Alexandria, it was a book heist. It was a knowledge theft. They stole the knowledge. They left a few books burning here, and then they burned it down to the ground. But the vast majority of the knowledge and wisdom stored at Alexandria was siphoned off and taken to that underground, I call it an underground base at the Vatican. Down there also, according to even some Jesuits, are bones of actual quote unquote alien beings, information about advanced beings that visited this planet, the Anunnaki, according to the Dogon, the Nomo, and the Sumerians call them the Pantheon, call them the Anunnaki Pantheon out of Sumeria. They call the Nitiru out of Africa. They have all these relics and artifacts of these particular people, even out of Greece. They have all this down there. They have information even out of Iraq that shows and proves that advanced races had lived on this planet long before this current civilization here exists. We're talking about eons and eons ago, super highly advanced with technologies and capabilities of flight and everything else, weapons of war that existed. All that information is stored underneath the Vatican archives, along with some of the most incredible texts and books and inventions that ever existed on this planet. And they siphon it away, and they're hoarding all of that wisdom and knowledge so that they can keep control and power and domination over the world. And guess what? It's working. If the public knew that long before Jesus, long before Moses and all these people, supposedly were even born or existed, that thousands of years before them, an advanced race lived on this planet, built an Atlantean global civilization, probably Atlantean interplanetary civilization that had capability of space flight and everything else, and that they most likely genetically modified the existing hominids, which then became Homo sapiens sapien, in order to put us all in slavery and make us do the workload for them. If they knew that, those stories and those tales from the Sumerian tablets, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of Going Forth by Day, aka the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Epic of Atrahasis, and the myth of Adapa, if they knew that all these texts predominantly made up the majority of the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
then we would be like, well, what are you guys preaching to us? This is all fake. This is all lies. And we know that in the Emerald Tablets, which is my book compendium of the Emerald Tablets, that the majority of Jesus's teachings in the New Testament come directly from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which are 38,000-year-old teachings. So they must control and hide and secure evidence of this information and this knowledge to keep people basically in this level of ignorance where they can continue to control them and steal their money. The Council of Nicaea came together, built up the mythology. They added to the story. They took from a lot of ancient texts and tablets, and then they kind of curated this book, which they want to call it a canonized Bible, right? So they took from here, took from there, this tablet, that tablet, this scripture, that papyrus, this Nag Hammadi piece. We like this coming out of this text over here. And then they kind of just culminated together and then remixed it, put their own spin on it to make sure that slavery was approved and okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we want to add that in there. Got to make sure the slavery is approved, because people were enslaving each other since back and before the black slaves. I'm talking about in the ancient times, slaves were already going on. Slavery was already going on. Yeah, sure. It's nothing new. Yeah. And then so you had that. And then, of course, we want to collect a lot of money. So they have to pay us. We got to make sure we got the money. You got to pay. You know what I'm saying? And you got to do the labor and you got to bring the offerings, because we ourselves are not going to go out and hunt and grow farms and everything else. So you guys, you're going to have to bring these offerings to us. We want it already cooked. So make sure it's a burnt offering. Make sure you drain the blood. Make sure it's healthy for us, and bring us your first harvest, because we want the freshest fruit and the freshest vegetables. We don't want the stale stuff. Yes. We want your freshest wheat and the freshest breads. And so people would come down and bring everything to the church and give it all away, along with whatever money they had left. And these people would live like fat cats, literally off of pimping the knowledge and understanding of what's going on and tricking people into believing that they had some access to divine power and knowledge when they were just really high-level pimps. The way that they went around, the way that the Council of Nicaea put this in place with Rome, and Rome said, we're now going to dominate the planet with this religion. Mm-hmm. So they combined their beliefs with the Christianity, all right, because they felt like keeping it separate was creating too much, anger between the two sides, and everybody wanted to go head to head. So, you know what, we're going to combine it. We'll add our stuff in with their stuff, and we'll make it a national religion, as Rome was on its global escapade trying to dominate and take over the planet. Everywhere they went, they would then instill and install this Christianity, this Catholic Christianity in those areas. But this is how they did it. People believed that Christianity was spread by love and the good news, and no, it was spread by rape, bloodshed, murdering, and killing. Crusades. And so when they came to your town, they literally would take your women and your children. They would take the leader of that village or whatever. They would show that you guys are going to bow down to us. You're going to follow this religion. You're going to speak our language, and they'll make an example out of somebody, and then everybody else would follow suit. And if they didn't, then they would say, okay, we're going to give you a lot of these torture devices. They would have the Pope's spear, all right, which is still in the museums right now. They would stick that into a woman's personal parts, and it would explode on the inside of her. They would have this triangular pyramid with a spire on top, and it would reel a man up and down and let it go up into his back door over and over again until he died. And they had all these torture mechanisms. They tortured and killed over 80 million people over the course of 700 years under the order of the popes, in order to spread love and peace and Christianity all around the planet. And so, but this is, again, all with the authority of Rome. So this global conquest to spread this and collect money was all done by bloodshed and torture, not by love and peace. Even the depiction of Jesus was switched over to the face that became the global popular face. That was actually Caesar Borgia, who was actually one of the sons of an actual pope, and killed his own brother to try to take his place. This guy was just an evil, brutal, killing ruler. His father commissioned the artist to paint his image as the image of Jesus, and that image still propagates the planet till this very day. So the image that a lot of people are praying to is not the Jesus that they think it is, but actually a natural-born killer. Yeah, he wasn't a white guy with blue eyes. If you read the description, he had bronze feet and he had tight curly hair. I mean, so clearly you're talking about somebody that looks like they come from that region, which really is the northern tip of Africa, aka Arabia, in that region. and I've been there, of course, now dozens of times. I mean, all those people, the people who are homegrown, they all look the same. But that's a depiction that took hold and took root and has been burnt into the minds. What a great marketing campaign. I mean, you want to talk about applied neuroscience. That image is burnt into the brains of people before they're even conceived. When they come out of the womb, they're looking for that image. So they did a great marketing and propaganda campaign with that image. They burnt it into the brains of people so deeply, it's embedded in our DNA. It's great. It's great marketing, great propaganda, subliminal information, subliminal messages and teachings, and it just gets burnt into the genome, and it passes on from generation to generation. Same thing happened with this Jesus figure. His name isn't even Jesus. His name was Yeshua.
Yeshua,
okay? Yeah, that's the actual name. And so, but again, Jesus, the J is a new letter. It didn't even exist until recently. I mean, so we're talking about, okay, what is really the name? Isus. When you look into the root word of that, and you go back into some of the ancient tongues, you find out it's Hail Zeus. So people that are calling on the name of Jesus all the time, they're calling for help from Zeus, which is actually a converted name from the Sumerian pantheon. So they're calling on Enlil, is what they're calling on. They're not calling on any son of the creator of the universe. And this is why a lot of prayers don't actually work. People don't understand the power of speech and then calling on names and the cymatic frequencies they create. Then when you're completely ignorant to what you're really saying, it's no wonder why billions of prayers go up every single day all around the world. But then again, look at the state of the world on a daily basis. You can clearly see that if somebody has a positive outcome, more than likely it's just luck.
Why are there Egyptian obelisks everywhere?
The obelisks are remnants of an ancient golden age that existed, where a lot of wisdom and knowledge from the brick masons was passed down. And they are well aware of this. And a lot of the knowledge that was passed down from the purpose and use of the obelisk, all the additional construction in those ancient cities, was passed down to brick masons over generations. And those people ended up becoming parts of governments that they were overseeing construction for new cities and so forth. And it's a paying oath to the ancient brick masons and the knowledge and wisdom that they've shared and saved and held back from the general public over the years. The actual obelisks were wireless receivers for wireless electricity and even frequencies for sound. And so the Great Pyramid, for example, would generate this wireless electricity, which would shoot up out of the apex. The obelisk, they're all crystal granite. They would capture this ambient electricity from the atmosphere. And then if you had something called a jed, which you see all over Egypt, and even in some other cultures, like in Afghanistan, you can find the jed etched into stone as well, and also in Turkey. What happens is this jed would capture this ambient electricity. It looks like a Tesla coil. And then there's a cord coming out of it, which connect to their gold electroplating devices. We know they had electricity, and they use them with the jed because depictions of it are all over Egypt, and the gold plating is all over Egypt from ancient times. So we know they use electric gold plating, so it's not even a mystery. Of course, they had light bulbs, which are etched into stone in the crypt located underneath the Temple of Dendera and a few other places as well. So they had, but they all of those depictions are connected to a jed. The jed will receive wireless electricity from these obelisks. So these obelisks were pillars of power. And so they have now taken that as an archetype and a metaphor to put that in their locations and say, hey, we have power, because that's what they did in ancient times. They're showcasing their power. If you look at Teotihuacan in Mexico, the pyramid complex there, which mimics identical to Giza Plateau in Africa and Egypt, you find out that you take a map of Rome's courtyard and overlay it over Teotihuacan, it's a perfect match. The courtyard is a perfect match to the courtyard of Teotihuacan, right up until you get to close to the Pyramid of the Moon. The Pyramid of the Sun is behind it. And so then you have the obelisk directly in the center. So even the Roman, the Vatican, they've mimicked even the courtyard of Teotihuacan, located all the way in Mexico, and they put an obelisk dead center. So they know what they're doing. They're paying oath to tribute to the ancient past and the ancient knowledge of the brick masons, and they're showcasing these obelisks as a symbol of power. And so this huge underground labyrinth exists exactly what Thoth the Atlantean said it did. It starts actually underneath the Great Pyramid, and it spreads out for miles underneath the Giza Plateau. It goes on for miles. And some of those tunnels go all the way from Giza all the way to the Pyramid of Ur, the Ziggurat of Ur in Iraq. You can go from Giza to Iraq underground, okay? This labyrinth is massive, and in order to build it and know where you're going, you have to have some ideal concept of, from an aerial view, of mapping and understanding angles and degrees, and of course, again, knowing the material so you can prevent a collapse. But he calls it, the beginning part of this labyrinth is called the Halls of Amenti, just one of many halls of Amenti that actually exist. And they discovered these halls that connect to this labyrinth years ago, which I have they have a sketched image of them, and I have it in my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablet. So this has existed for eons, this underground labyrinth of passageways and tunnels that lead out, I mean, for miles and miles. It's incredible. Underneath the sands of Giza, it's the stone that's already down there. So whatever that sandstone or whatever's down there, they understood it. They know how to. And what's interesting is when you look at some of, like, if you go into the Serapeum, which I call Enki's Halls of Amenti, right? That's underground in Saqqara. When you see the perfect archways that are carved out and the alcoves that are carved out, again, this is almost like Kailash. Whatever they did, they knew how to cut this stone in a certain way where they almost vitrified it as they cut. So as they're cutting this tunnel underground, they're vitrifying it at the same time with high levels of heat, which reduces the amount of extraction of mass in brick and rock that need to be taken out, because you're actually searing and burning it as you bore through at the same time. And it makes these perfect cuts, which are evident at the Serapeum in Saqqara. So I think they utilize the same exact technique. They look like giant halls. And when you go look at the image that was sketched from the one that was discovered under Giza, gigantic halls, perfectly arched underground with the existing rock that's already there. And there's a temple there, which we're trying to find. I saw it in 2014, and we haven't been able to get the name, but there's many of them that you can go to. When you walk through these particular hallways, they're very narrow hallways with gigantic megalithic crystal granite on both sides. And as you walk through these hallways, you touch the walls with both hands as you walk down the hallway, and people will be lined up behind you doing the same thing. And you would be treated by electromagnetism into your body from these gigantic slabs, these megalithic slabs of granite, magnetized crystal granite. And in one of these locations, so many people had gone down that hallway with their hands and their fingertips on the walls to the point where you can see the grooves of fingers in solid granite. That's how many over thousands of years have walked down these hallways. So I'm looking forward to finding that exact location where the most impressive one was located when I go in October, and documenting it and filming it and bringing back all that knowledge and information to the people when I get back in the end of October.